golf tournament, auction, talking to the collective, talking to our guys, setting up brain trains so our guys can keep learning about things. Oh, it's definitely a lot more than basketball, but God put me here to help these guys grow for life. And I think this gives me more of that opportunity. Instead of just coaching some X's and O's and making sure guys are good in life and getting to know them, we have another area that we can make an impact. And I really like that.
Be the story.
NIL deals are turning college basketball upside down. Everywhere you look, there's a new headline. I'm Jay Hicks, and I'm joined by my co-host, Keith Miller. Keith, welcome to the show.
I am so glad to be here today, Jay. I'm excited for our guest. I love talking college basketball. This is exciting today.
I'm excited. We have someone who's in the thick of things, who's right in the middle of all these changes. We've got Coach Coach Mudge with us, the man leading Sam Houston Bearkats right after the regular season conference championships. Coach, welcome to the show.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me. Love talking about basketball and this NIL space. It's a cool time to be a coach right now.
You know what? And it's a great time to have you. I mean, you're hot right now. If you remember the old James Brown, one time he was so hot they brought out a fire extinguisher. That's you, man. That's you. Let's go.
A little baby flame. That's about all I got.
We'll take it. Up first, Coach Mudge tackles the tough questions of the regular season, how to do NIL, the transfer portal, and turning coaching strategies upside down. Get ready for some honest takes right off the bat. But before we do, this show is produced by Hicks Sports and Entertainment.
We're produced by Hicks Sports and Entertainment. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Influxer. Influxer is the go-to platform for connecting student athletes with incredible sponsorship opportunities. Whether you're looking to support your student athletes or you're an athlete yourself seeking partnerships, Influxer has your student athletes covered. Check them out today and start building a meaningful collaboration in the sports world.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to Influx. I'm a former D1 track athlete, and I think about it. They have the app. If I would have had that, I don't know how much money I would have. I don't know how much running I would have done, but I'm going to tell you what, I'd have been making some content, guys. So, Coach Mudge, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about some things really, really quickly. Diving right into it, we're talking about NIL. We're talking about the transfer portal, how it's reshaped things at Sam Houston State. Is the transfer portal and NIL a thumbs up or a thumbs down for college basketball?
Oh, definitely a thumbs up. I think that NIL by itself, giving guys the ability to profit off of what they have built, the brand that they have, the shots in the gym, the shots on the backyard, those things all build to a brand because that builds towards success. And it's one way for them to be able to capitalize off that beyond, the tuition fees, room and board is it's becoming more a business. College sports is moving from amateur status to professional education in one way or another. And so NIL allows guys to be able to capitalize off that. And, it's a free market. And so the guys that do a really good job and are marketable through social media, through appearances, through personality, those things are able to get the most out of it, which is the way, the market in the United States works. And so I think it's a super positive thing, especially when it is used for their benefit, for the good. The straight pay for play can be problematic at times, but I think the opportunity for players to profit is just such a really good thing because it also can help them getting ready for the business world. A lot of what our guys have been able to do is to, we give them part of what we build is give these guys access to brand management education, marketing, learn how to create content. Because it's not as easy as just like, hey, let me film myself. Most of the guys are like, well, what do I do? You got to learn how to be able to do that. And so that helps them learn how to navigate the business world, navigate taxes, navigate, all the things that they are doing. Our international players learning about the international work laws and things like that. So there's a really cool area for them to learn something that is translatable to starting their career. They can already start a business career while they're here. It's not just about the money.
I got to ask you, so I hate to interrupt, but I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
How much has this changed and how much have you had to adjust personally, right? You started your career, you were working with guys like Kevin Durant. It was just about, selling a brand and selling the main opportunity. And I know that part hasn't changed, but how have you adjusted, right? This is your first year, last season, going into your second year. You're clearly doing some things right. Talk to us about what's working for you.
Well, we've recruited the right kind of young men, and that's what matters the most is guys that, are tough and they just live to win. Everything they do is about winning and being the best. And in those kind of guys, we get really motivated guys. And so the NIL piece of it has just added another part to my resume, if you will. I was a marketing major in college. And so it kind of just dives right into that of, all right, how can we help these guys be able to be marketable? And so it's certainly changed, luckily, and I guess luckily is one way to put it. When I became a head coach, NIL was full speed. I didn't have to have a pre and post where I did one of the things the way before. When I was an assistant coach, NIL was kind of coming up, but it hit full fledged. So it's honestly been a part of my job from day one. And so obviously there are rules about what I can do. And our collective has done an unbelievable job and is growing like crazy. But I can also set the environment for our guys to be able to benefit from it. To give them the stuff that they need. Even Influxer has done an unbelievable job of helping our guys get a platform, get things that they can send out. And that's been so good for them that our universities put together. But it certainly takes up a part of the job, not just the NIL, but fundraising and with college sports moving towards a professional model, and the revenue side of things individually for our players and for departments takes a really big importance. And so, I'm an event manager, golf tournament, auction, talking to the collective, talking to our guys, setting up brain trains so our guys can keep learning about things. Oh, it's definitely a lot more than basketball, but God put me here to help these guys grow for life. And I think this gives me more of that opportunity. Instead of just coaching some X's and O's and making sure guys are good in life and getting to know them, we have another area that we can make an impact. And I really like that. And that's a part of this coaching thing that I enjoy.
Shameless plug here, Jay. I recently got to go over there to Huntsville and work with some of Coach's guys.
Coach, I need an invite. Coach, I need an invite too.
You bring me one of those Brand&Athlete shirts out, you can come any day.
Hey, you guys heard it. You guys heard it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I think you nailed it, though, Coach, because, you both know part of what I do is I go around the country. I visit universities and I talk. And, of course, I see some of the folks that, prefer the old ways of how college athletics was run. And, they see all the negatives with NIL or the perceived negatives with NIL, but they, sometimes they're not really thinking about like what a leg up, what a head start this is. And you identified something with what you just said. They're getting an advanced track. They're getting a tutored, a handheld lesson into the business world with NIL right now. And that's the way I see it as well. These student athletes right now, they're getting to flex their muscles. They're getting to make their mistakes now while they're in college, marketing with, decisions, contracts, stuff like that. And they're getting that guidance from a coach, a staff member, whomever it might be. They're able to get that tutelage right now rather than graduate and then start making the mistakes when you've got a full-time job on the line.
Yeah.
That's an absolute positive to what we're seeing in this NIL world right now. I'm glad somebody besides, myself, I'm glad, a coach of your caliber, recognizes that too, because that absolutely is 100% true. And
I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think you're exactly right. Athletes are able to get some of these things sometimes at the cost of a university, the ability to have the resources of Influxer, of, people help with contracts, compliance offices that are helping them navigate it. You got to pay for that in the real world. And that costs money. And businesses sometimes can't manage all that. And so student athletes get a lot of really positive things out of being a student athlete, but this is another way that they get, some gift in kind value that maybe they don't realize how much somebody looking at a contract would cost in the real world. Lawyers, their per hour fee is pretty darn good. And, getting it for free on a college campus is a huge advantage that they get to use.
Jay,
yeah.
he just dropped something I have to spotlight on. Head coach recognizing the compliance office. I was a compliance guy for 25 years.
Hey,
I
Coach,
love that, Coach. And you got a great compliance guy. Trevor's amazing. I love his mentality, and I'm seeing that actually from a lot of different aspects there at the university. Just the questioning, the looking at the detail, protecting the student athletes, making sure they're informed of everything, not facilitating the deals, but making sure the student athletes are informed, point A to point Z. Man, kudos. You made my day. The rest of my day is golden. You spotlighted the
country. They don't get much love, so we're going to get.
Oh, they need more.
Yeah. Coach, shifting gears and kind of building on what you were talking about. Talk about what this opportunity that you're talking about, because you're so right. Like right before we know that the student athletes were getting an incredible experience, right? You go to conference tournaments, you travel all over the country, you meet people you ordinarily would not be able to meet as a student athlete. And today, not only can you do that, right? Some people can also walk away with possibly a career, a brand. Is that something that really impacts the student athlete from your perspective? And how does it feel as a coach to be able to deliver that to someone potentially?
I think it, kind of plays to what, God's calling for me is here. Obviously I'm hired and fired by wins and losses, but I'm going to be judged one day by what impact I had, whether I served out the mission of what he wants us to do. And so a 40-year impact is what I'm going for, not just a 4-year. And so, for example, we had a 1-year transfer last year, Owen McGlashan, great kid. And he came in and he got value from all the parts of being a student athlete. He obviously got his school paid for. He got the training. We won a conference championship. He is a pro basketball player, but he also bought into the other side of building his brand and his future. Now he posts every day about being a pro basketball player, has a whole ton of followers, has built a brand. And while he was here, he networked with our alumni and met people everywhere he went. And our alumni helped him to get 3 Fortune 500 interviews when he graduated, and he chose to go play pro. But when he comes back, he will get one of those because he's so impressive. But he's the student athlete has so many different things beyond, if you put on paper the tuition fees, room board,
right.
The training, the basketball things that people think of. There's so many other things they have access to, that the ones that really value and they're thinking in the future, even if they want to play professionally, which all our guys do, but a lot of them are thinking, all right, what can I do while I'm playing pro to build my brand or to be set up? We have guys who are doing real estate while they're gone. We have guys who are investing. You can do a lot of things and be set up because for good or bad, student athletes are at the forefront of university. It's the window towards the university. So these guys can get more notoriety from fans, from alumni, from people out in the community that allows them to have a network that, a regular student might not. And we've had some guys really use that, and we try to talk about how that is important. And when you can see when it really latches on and what they get out of it from a relationship standpoint and from starting a career, it can have an unbelievable upside for them.
Yeah. And I have to ask you about this. I know there's a lot of changes, and it's crazy, right? You're out there recruiting, you're talking to classes in the future. So I know this is extremely, chaotic times a little bit, right? Because you don't know what scholarships you're going to have. Some sports. Talk to me about your mindset, right? Because I look at it as there's an opportunity, which is what I hear you're saying, right? Like right now, I think NIL and the transfer portal is kind of like the tractor was to farming. Right. Like I know it put a lot of people out of jobs. Right. But on the flip side, it also took those same people. They were able to use that productivity and go do other things in our economy that helped grow our economy, right? Like everybody didn't have to work on the farm anymore for us to eat. What's your mindset shift? And I ask because, coming up, I think I saw a quote by Bill Self, Kansas. I obviously not asking you to comment on him or his program, but he was talking about it's just shifted his mind and he feel like he's done well with it. What is your mindset on both those things, transfer portal and NIL?
Well, I think, we touched a little bit on NIL and how I think it's a great opportunity and gives us another avenue that we can help these young men for the next 40 years. And not just now, not just in like, hey, let me get some dollars now, because over time, those dollars are pale in comparison to what these guys can and will make. So I think it's a cool opportunity in that we can help set up that environment. The transfer portal, I think, has some positives as well. I mean, I know that there's a lot of coaches and people that think it's the demise of college sports and all these things. Right. But I think it's a necessary step as it goes from the amateur to pro model. Free agency is a thing in pro sports. Now, as every organization like the NCAA or college sports transitions from one model to another, there's growing pains. Yeah. They don't realize how this affects that. There's the consequences of this and that you don't really see, because college sports is not just a corporation. And so you don't know how some things are going to work, and you try to keep this, and then you see, it affects that. But the portal is a step in that. And I think that is an okay thing. And the portal also allows young men to capitalize on what they built. And I love that.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? I love what you're saying. The only reason why, the one thing that I look at it, and I know, you are a really talented, basketball player yourself. So not just a coach here.
I was average at best. I passed to the really good players.
Well, I did. Well, the receipts say a little differently. They say, your high school team was pretty salty, man. I mean, I'm just saying what the records say, that you were.
I was a good passer and I was tough. That's probably about it. I couldn't jump high. I wasn't very fast. But I had good teammates and a good coach.
I love your humility. So I'm gonna let you make it, as they say. I'm gonna let you make it on there because we know you can ball. But one of the things that I do love is like I had friends when I was in college who were like stuck on a bench somewhere, right? And sometimes they had recruited guys. And let's just be honest, if you have like maybe an All-American or, an All Big 12 or an All SEC or All Conference USA guy in front of you, you may not be able to realistically play as a junior, right? Like sometimes it is what it is. You're a coach, you know what I'm saying? Yes. So I also look at that as the opportunity. And I looked at I was going through your season last year, and I was like, man, these guys were salty, man. They just really just love to play the game. And it seems like, talk to me about the guys, like your mindset when you're adding players, because I was looking at some of the highlights, and I was like, man, these guys they have a dog in them.
I think that's the biggest thing we look for is guys who fit. And we like a bunch of tough dudes, like we said earlier, who live to win. There's a difference between loving.
Coach, I can see it on the highlights. I have to tell you, they're balling.
And they love to play, and they love to compete, and they love to be part of something. And so we do as much digging on people's personality as much as we do how good they are. There's a million good players, but some guys just wouldn't fit with what we're trying to do and what we do every day. And that's not a bad thing for anybody that doesn't fit, because there is a good fit for everybody out there. But there's just a certain kind of guy that's successful here. I mean, I've been blessed to be here 15 years, and the kind of guy that's really successful, we've kind of figured out some of those things. It's an inexact science. But that's what we look for the most. Let
me ask this real quick, because I don't want you to talk past this, because you're a D1 coach. We have you on the line, because we have a lot of parents who watch this show too. So talk about what coaches are looking for sometimes. And I ask that because sometimes the parent, they may have not played themselves. They're just trying to support their young, daughter or son. So talk to me about that.
Well, I'm learning how hard being a sport kid parent is as my kids are getting older. All these things that I was like, gosh, that person over there is kind of crazy. And then you get your kids doing it, like, I feel some things that are making me like, I can't do that. And so it's a wild deal. And, there's so many parents that are really trying to help their kids. But I think that there's a lot of things we look for. But one of the things we look for is how their parents act. I'm not going to lie. Like if there's a parent that is acting a certain way in the stands, and don't get me wrong, there's great parents who are loud. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about whether they're loud or not loud. It's a lot how they interact with coaches and with their other teammates. And so there is an easy X if a parent is going to be bad for the program. And luckily, we've had unbelievable parents of people in our program, and that's been a big part of it, because a lot of the time that trickles down to what kids are like when adversity hits, because that's the most important thing is what are they going to be like when things are really, really hard, when things are not going their way, when they're being tested, because we all get tested, and we see how we act in that. And so I love seeing a player when they're on a really bad day, like the really good day when things are going well, everyone on the planet can be a good teammate, can have energy.
Right. It's easy, right?
Yeah, when it's easy. But what are they like when things aren't going well? They're not making shots. Their team is losing. There's, something bad happens in the game. You get a bad foul call. Coach gets on to him. How are they going to react? What are they going to be like in those moments? And then how can they respond? What do they take from that and try to fix the situation? Whether it's communication with a teammate, whether it's responding to a coach and then taking some action to follow through with what their coach said. Obviously, a baseline level of talent, and then what translates to the fit and the college level is a piece of it. But man, there's a lot of really talented players out there.
Yeah.
And so then finding all right, what do we see? You can see people's motivation and how they play and how they react and how they talk to each other. And all right, are they motivated by themselves? Are they trying to do things because they want to look good, because I want to get mine, whatever it is?
So are they a me guy or are they a we guy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of palms up, palms down guy. Are they?
Even one of the things I do, Coach, I'm a little bit crazy. I go and look on athletes' social media just because of what I've just been doing this so long. And so one of the things is I can go to their Twitter and it'll tell me whether they're a we guy or a me guy, especially if you look after, was it after a win, after it was the loss, that sort of thing.
For sure. Yeah. And there's 13 guys that are scholarship guys on a roster, and you can't play 13 guys. It's just the nature of it. You're going to, we play 10-ish, and that's more than most people. Most people play 7 or 8. And in those moments, are all the guys on the team going to be together for one goal, for winning, for each other, cheering for each other's success, even when it goes against their expectations? Expectations are tough. And we literally had this talk 2 days ago with the team, just so that we can start discussing these elephants in the room. Let's get it all out there. Let's talk. And so what are they going to be like? And that's an important thing, because it won't be everybody's day every single day. Even your best player is going to have a bad day. What are they going to be like? Are they going to be cheering for their teammates' success? Are they going to be down about their lack of success that day? What is their goal, and what are they going to follow through with? And we really try to look for that, whether it's in the portal, whether it's high school, whether it's JUCO, and we take guys from all of them, because I think that there's value in every single one of them. But man, that's the biggest thing we dig for. We try to talk to everybody. We talk to trainers. We talk to principals. We talk to anybody we can see. What is this guy like? What is he like to his teammates? How does he treat you? I mean, all those things, they don't realize. People don't realize that how they affect everybody matters. Right. If you're a jerk to the trainer, then that shows a little bit about who you are and what you're going to be like in those hard moments, because you treat somebody a certain way. And so we try to do all that homework and ask as many people, and we don't always get it right, but I will honestly say we've been really blessed to have great young men, and it makes it a lot more fun to coach. Man,
okay, I had this question in my head, because we're circling around NIL, portal, all these different things. And, part of me, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this guy won a conference championship. I mean, he's got some success going on there. How in the world are you keeping your players focused on the actual game, along with these other things. And I feel like I just got a great preview as to how you're doing that. Your screening process about who you're bringing into the program is step one. I mean, you're checking that out. And if I was to characterize everything you just said, character matters, you know, and it's not just about the stat line, but character matters because, you know, but once you get them there, you know, how are you, you know, what other things do you feel like you have to do to make sure they're staying on task? Basketball's at the front of their focus.
You know, we talk about priorities and time management and things a whole lot. We always say, you know, God, family, school, basketball, and that's the order. Social life comes in a distant fifth. But the great thing about college, because college is fun, I would go back to college in a heartbeat. But if you keep things in that order, you can have great time for your social life and all the other things you want to do. When we get messed up in life, even as an adult, it's when something gets out of order. You know, when something goes ahead of something else that it shouldn't. And so we talk a lot about that, and really, you know, we try to pour into these guys' lives and be helping them do life. And when we see something, talking about it and trying to give guys schedules and things to help them mature. We talk about living like a pro a lot, you know, to help them be ready for it. And like, there's so many different things that come with getting your life in order. And the things like NIL and stuff that can be really distracting, the transfer portal, we try to have a lot of conversations about it. We're not just sloughing it under the rug like it doesn't exist, because we know it's on their mind. We know that there are coaches that reach out to our guys even in the middle of the season. We know there are family members. There are people talking about it. Yeah, and it's okay. So we try to have, I mean, in the middle of the season, we're trying to have conversations one-on-one with these guys to be able to let them talk about it and give it its place. All right, now that we've discussed this thing, now it is, we've given it its due place, and we can focus on what we need to focus on. And if something comes up and we need to talk some more, let's do it, you know? And I think that if we try to ignore that it's going on, that's when it can create a lot of distractions. That's when it can be a problem in the locker room. If it's not discussed in the locker room, which we've discussed, say, guys, this is something that, you know, when you're a grown man, you don't discuss your business things. You don't discuss the money you make with other people. And, you know, like my best friends in the world, I don't know what they make. They don't know what I make, because that's not what you do.
Right.
So trying to help these guys understand that, and then also talk about that it can be a cancer in the locker room. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Well, if I gave you $1,000, you'd be excited and you'd be stoked. But if you knew that somebody else got 5,000, then you would be, you know, your viewpoint would be totally different. And so trying to help guys to understand that and talk about it. Even the portal, you know, we had guys that we knew would get in. We had guys that were thinking about it, but they were talking to us about it. And the thing about the portal that the University of Texas called it, offered me to triple my salary to go coach there. I would go there. And so why can't I tell a young man who's earned it, who's bought into winning, who's given us everything they have, even if it's for a year, why wouldn't I want that same positive step in their life for them? And so I think that it's another way that we can help these guys amplify, what a great word to use, their life, and open up new doors to, you know, be able to transfer to somewhere that can give them something that opens up another door in their life. And we had a young man, David Barnes, great young man, through the whole process was talking to us, and we were talking to him about this transfer process. And he was communicating. He did things for the right reason. He was asking for opinions and made a choice that was good for him. And we couldn't be happier for him. We had another guy, Lamar Wilkerson, first team all-league guy, got into the portal and was talking to us the whole time about, what do you think about this? You know, this coach called that one. And I'm sitting back trying to help him, give him information, not trying to be selfish and make sure he stays. If the best thing for him to go is go, great, because those guys become the best billboards for our program to go get the next guy. Look at the success that this guy had and think of what we can do for you. Yeah. And so it's something I tell our staff all the time. If we don't have guys that are being recruited in the, you know, to go to a higher level, we're probably not good enough. We're probably not, going to be winning championships like we want to do every year. And if we can be a resource for these guys as they go into that, then that can be a good thing. There can be so many reasons why the portal can be a positive thing, and the portal giveth and it taketh away. And we've got some great guys out of the portal that have been unbelievably successful, set up their career. And like anything in life, the attitude you approach it with, it makes a big difference. And we think it can be a good thing. And while we have these guys for this year, we want to do as much good for them as we can. And then at the end of the year, let's discuss what's best for them, and then we'll adjust from there. And so it needs to be, to me, at least in our program, a very open dialogue. It doesn't need to be a source of tension, a source of like, I'm not going to talk to you because I feel weird about this conversation. Let's talk about this thing. It's real. It's there. Let's navigate this crazy thing together.
Yeah, I love it. And I can see why you're so successful, right? The energy, the perspective of relationships. I mean, that's what I heard. You have tremendous relationships that through the thick and thin, whether they stay or go, it seems like you guys are having great conversations. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is keeping guys focused as well with social media, right? As someone who's a content creator, we're all, on this, conversation of content creators, and that takes time and it takes energy. How do you keep them focused, right? Because I know a lot of coaches are very focused, right? They're type A personalities, high energy guys. How do you balance that?
It just comes back to the priorities, and we have 4 pillars, which I don't need to get into, but one of them is discipline. And so based on your priorities is where you put your time and energy into. And if being a content creator and building your brand is a piece of that, then you need to be able to build that in without sacrificing things that are above it on the priority chain. And now there are things below that will be sacrificed. Maybe you're not hanging out quite as much.
Yeah.
Maybe, being on the video game, maybe hanging out with your friends. Maybe it's one of those things is what takes the hit. And so really trying to keep guys' priorities and talk to them, all right, where are your priorities? And how do we help you schedule those things so that those get attention and energy first? It takes a lot of discipline. It's hard. As you know, content creation is difficult. It's not just, hey, I'm just walking back and I just 15 seconds of this thing. There's production, there's thought, there's, connection. There's lots of stuff that goes into it. And the discipline piece of it is the only way to be good at many things. And if you start being unorganized, or if you start not having a plan to what you're doing, then all the things are going to suffer. And so we talk, discipline is something that is a life thing, is a basketball thing, is, being a dad, being a husband, all those things, it matters. And we want to create men. That's the biggest thing we're trying to do. And so as all these things are coming at them, like, okay, these things are coming at you. How does that affect your priorities? Where does that fit with your priorities? And how do we make those work in the 24 hours that you have? Because you got to get this amount of sleep. You're going to practice this time. You're going to have all these things. How do you approach it in a disciplined way? And what are your distractions? Because one of the biggest things is what are your distractions? And for a lot of guys, social media can be a distraction when it's not being used for one of their priorities.
They get on Snapchat and they see there's a turn up.
Yeah.
Right.
And you scroll on Instagram Reels, which, don't get me wrong, it's one of my distractions as well, because you see some funny stuff on there and you start laughing.
Down the rabbit hole.
It's and 30 minutes later, you look up, be like, oh, geez, I've accomplished nothing.
Look, I like to say social media is like a time machine.
I like that. You
look at it once and it's like 4 hours later or 2 hours later.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, it can be a benefit, like many things in our world. It can be such a benefit when used in the right way. And so, like you said, keeping them focused on how to use all these things for their benefit, and how to not let it be a distraction. It's not easy, don't get me wrong. And as a grown man, I'm 40 years old and I struggle with that as well. But it's in terms of being disciplined, it's identifying those distractions, identify the line where it becomes not beneficial is probably one of the best things we can help these guys with.
I love how well-rounded, like everything about what you're implementing there. I mean, I'm ready. My 10-year-old's not ready for you yet, and maybe he never will be. But man, I want him to be, cultivated, by somebody like you down the road.
I appreciate it. I've been blessed with a bunch of good coaches to learn from, and just trying to keep it going.
I was ready. My son's in the 8th grade, my youngest. I was ready to start packing his bags while you're talking.
Yeah.
Because, you remind me of a couple people. One, I was fortunate growing up. I went to John Thompson's camp. I'm done dating myself. I was young at the time on his campus. And one of the things you said really struck me. He had this thing. He talked about exactly what you're talking about, like how you treat people. Well, what was crazy, we all were so enamored by Coach. And then one thing I figured out, like halfway through the camp, like if you looked up in the shadows, he would be like in the corner. And this is true. He would be in the corners watching how we're behaving when he wasn't around. And then like at the end of camp, he shared that with everyone. I was fortunate to have, just a great, parents and a father who kind of shared that with me. I'm a military dad, but you really remind me a lot of what you're talking about, the accountability and just really raising men. So, that kind of, when you were talking, it took me back to those moments.
I appreciate it. It's, coaching is a calling, and you can have many different motivations in it. And so I hope that we're having an effect on these guys. That's the most lasting thing we can do. So hopefully we do a little bit of that. And in the process, if you create men and have good players, usually positive things happen. And so it's been a blessing to be here. Hopefully we can keep it going.
There was one golden little nugget, one little phrase he said, Jay, that the portal giveth and it taketh away. I love that. That needs to be on a shirt. I'm going directly to the influxer people. That needs to be a shirt, because
you got to copy. You got to put Coach on there. Got to give him his love.
Oh yeah, no,
that 2-cent royalty every time.
We're gonna put your ad sign on there, Coach. Now I can see why you're successful, Coach.
One of the things that, I love talking with coaches about is like, how do you appropriate your time? Because not only are you having to go out and recruit, high school and, in the transfer portal, the junior colleges and stuff, how much of your time are you, dedicating towards, in a sense, re-recruiting your current roster as well?
I think a lot of the re-recruiting is done just by how you treat them every day and how the environment is, and how you are when things are going good and when they're going bad. We've been lucky the last 2 years. We've had 6 guys return that all could have left, and they decided to come back. And that's been the biggest blessing for me, is to have those returners that know what it takes and they have the experience. And so that's been a testament to my staff, a testament to those kids. And so, the re-recruiting part of it, I think, is partially in those conversations, but it's partially just in how the program is built every day. Are you really living out what you told them you were going to? Because playing time is going to be difficult to be one of those, which is why we don't promise anything in playing time. Say you're the one that earns that every day in practice. Yeah. But there's lots of other things in terms of how we treat them, what opportunities we're going to give them, following through on NIL type stuff, and the opportunities and connections with the collective and other partnerships we have. The thing about the portal is, if you don't follow through on the things that you do, they have an avenue to leave. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. It's a little bit of accountability for us as coaches, because every year you're going to lose some guys to the portal who want to play more, and that's okay. You're going to lose some guys to the portal who want to do a different level and money, and that's okay. That the middle, not the middle of talent, because that's not what I mean, but those other guys are the ones that you're recruiting every day by who you are. And guys know if you're genuine or not, and they know if you are following through, and if you care. They see through it no matter what the words you say. And so how you live is kind of you're recruiting them. And the most important recruits you have are the ones that are on your team. They're more important than any young recruit, any transfer recruit. And that is an important piece of how we budget our time. And spend a lot of time talking with our guys and asking them what they think. And do they like how we changed this in practice? Or what do you think about this? Or is there something we could do better? And then asking them about their family and their life and how things are going. And so we try to communicate with them a lot. I'm not saying I'm the best in the world at it. I'm not. but it is a focus of what we're trying to do. But obviously recruiting is a big part of this thing. And I try to take an active role in that. I also have an unbelievable staff that is in the weeds and the daily work with our guys and with the next round of guys. And I couldn't be more blessed to have them doing a lot of that, because they know what kind of guys are great here, and they're able to go find those guys and done a good job. We've had high school players who've been unbelievably successful. JUCO guys been super successful. High major transfers been very successful. D2 transfers, low major transfers, all the above. It's just finding the right guy. And, knock on wood, we've been able to do that. And, this year's team, I think we did the same thing. We have great young men. I don't know how good we're going to be. That remains to be seen. Only God knows. But we got the right kind of guys. We got our guys. We have talent. And now we just got to do our job of managing people and helping them and keeping those 15 guys going the same direction and focused on the main things. And that's the most fun part of coaching, is that part. There's a lot of fun pieces of it, but like you said, it starts with the relationships. Each of those 15 guys is different, and we can't treat them all the same. We're not going to say, everybody's the same, because they're not. They're motivated by different things. Their childhood was different. The things that they react to are different. They have different things going on at home, different family things, different worries. And so we have to be able to know those guys to be able to help them the most. And so, like yesterday on an off day, I called every one of our guys and just talked to them and asked them what they think. And I'm not trying to do that to be a brag or it's not a checkbox. It's, part of what we do is let's talk. Let's figure out what's on your mind. I want you to be open. If there's something bad, let's talk about it. That way I can fix it, because I am not infallible. I do things wrong all the time. And I think that helped me a lot in my last year, because going from an assistant coach to head coach is a very different role. Going from a C-suite member, CFO, COO, whatever, to the CEO is an entirely different role. And I had a lot of learning to do. I worked for some unbelievable coaches, and they helped show me what it looked like and let me be involved and see decisions. But you take that seat over, it's just really different. And so the best thing that I did was just ask our guys, like, all right, when this happens, what does that do for you? When we do practice like this, is that good? Is that bad? How do you react? In games, when I'm like this, how does that affect you and your leadership and your energy? And they helped me an incredible amount, and I have a lot more to learn. And so I just ask a lot of questions. I think our guys at first are taken aback by it. They're like, why is coach asking me that? And like, no, because I really want to know. Like, well, how does that make you feel and react? And because I want to be able to coach you the best, because I'm not going to get it right all the time. I'm definitely. So it's a moving pieces thing, and it's something that takes a lot of communication, which dudes are not always the best communicators, myself included. My wife would tell you, and so it just
had her on here with this, coach. Like,
no, we don't need that.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
Chelsea, the brother, is it Jason? Anyway, his wife jumps on sometime, and it's great, man. We should have had your wife. I'll tell her that we're sorry we didn't invite her.
She's way more exciting and way funnier than I am. She'd have been a hoot on this thing.
Yeah.
We got to consider that for the future episodes.
Oh man,
I love it. Coach, in changing times, I think that people who make quick decisions, who are able to take insights and be decisive, those are the people that are winning. And as you come off your first season and you're going into season number 2 and really leaning into social and the porter, I can absolutely see why you're super successful. And I think for anyone that's listening to this, the insights that you're giving here it doesn't matter if you're a real estate agent, if you're an attorney, if you want to be a great teacher, you want to be a coach, an athlete, like everything you're saying is so applicable. And if you want to stay up with us, is we're kind of having a great conversation here with Coach Mudge. Sign up for our email newsletter. Each week, Coach, we send out this interview. We also send the top 3 to 5 stories of the week so that our users don't have to go and search these topics out, because there's so much going on. So it's www.brand&athlete.com/playbook. Guys, you got to get it. You have to get it to stay on top of what's going on. Coach, as we move in and we talk about the future, right? And we explore the horizon of basketball, all the sweeping changes. I'm on Twitter, and, sometimes my fingers get tired just going through all of the updates of, like yesterday, they're like, hey, here's the latest court date. I'm fortunate I follow some people that kind of can take these long briefs. And God, I didn't go to law school. I'm a creative coach. I wasn't blessed with those kind of legal skills. But let's talk about some of the changes, some that may come to the collectives, the rev share that may happen. How are you guys preparing for that? Because I can tell that you're a guy who's who's taking the things in front of you, that are making quick decisions. How is the future looking for the Sam Houston State Bearkats?
I think we're in a really good place with our move to Conference USA. It's positioned us well to be able to take this on while benefiting from being in one of the best mid-major leagues in the country.
Right.
And obviously, 5-6 years ago, we were in the Southland, which was a great league. We had some really good teams in it. But moving up to the WAC and then now to Conference USA, our exposure level, our national footprint, the amount of people watching us and seeing our success you can already see the effect on campus, and we're just in year 2. And so with the changes, man, it's I don't think anybody, including the czar of it all, Greg Sankey, knows what it's going to look like in its final stages, because there's going to be so many different appeals, so many different people trying to change this piece, that piece, because it affects every different school and athlete differently. There's some of the athletes that were at the forefront at the beginning talking about revenue share who have then been left out of the latest revenue share model. Yeah. And there's a lot of unintended consequences that now we have to work through. So I really don't know. I know that our administration is positioning us really well so that we can capitalize off of our move into Conference USA and moving up, and the amount of extra football revenue that comes in, and the excitement that it's built. And that part's going to be really good. And so that we're going to be ready for a revenue share with our athletes, whatever that looks like at the end. I don't know what it's going to look like. But the strategic movement of our department the last couple of years has put us in a really good spot for that. And I'd applaud them, because that's some really high level stuff that's going on. I mean, when you're involved in the federal government and Congress and those things, in addition to, Power Fives with mids and lows, there's a lot of different competing opinions and competing motivations. And I don't know that anyone in the world knows what 5 years from now it'll look like. And so, our admin talks about all the different possibilities and how we're ready for all of them, because it could be a little bit of anything. And I think that's a testament to them, but also into where the department is going, is that we can be successful. It's not something we're scared of, right, because it's something that can really help us and our athletes.
Man, this whole conversation has been gold, Jay. I'm just, Coach, I'm ready to lace them up. Go play for you.
Eat 'em up, Cats, man. Come on.
Hey, I'm about to hit 50. I think I still got a little juice in the legs. I need some guidance in my life.
Coach, don't take that transfer portal. Don't take that chance.
Yeah. Hey, it giveth and it taketh away. So I'm ready to lace it up. I'm ready to be a Bearcat right now. Just give me some guidance here.
If you can shoot the ball and play defense, come on, let's do it.
Yeah, I can shoot, but I ain't making it up and down the court like I used to. So.
And neither am I, man. I hit 40 and I pulled my hammy the next day. So it happens.
Yeah. Coach, what to talk about you? We're talking about your administration. And, a lot of people that follow us are current athletes, obviously, parents, and then of course other, school administrators. But one of the things, the data point that stood out to me as I was preparing for this, your football team, right? Also, and we don't want to jinx them, on a run, 5-1, right? And you look at what you're doing going into year 2. And that's, remember earlier, I was talking about, you were laughing. I was talking about the tractor and the farm. You're seeing who some of what I call operators are in our athletic space, because the people who can make these moves quickly. Does that apply to you? Because I'm looking around, I'm going around to the schedules, on the website. You guys need to go check them out. GoBearkats.com, and you can do it yourself. There's a lot of winning going on over there.
And I think that's, as a testament to our administration, other than the current men's basketball coach, they've hired really well. They've had really good coaches. And so,
always that one, Coach.
Broad-based sports, we've won for a long time.
Yeah.
And, winning at different levels is hard. And our football team and Coach Keeler and then the coaches before have been super successful. And you knew it was a matter of time. Last year they lost about 5 or 6 games by 3 points or less on the last possession.
Absolutely.
And had a ton of injuries. And this year you're seeing the rewards of that in programs like our football, our women's basketball, our baseball, volleyball. All our sports have been really good because of the culture that those coaches create. And that starts at the top with our administration, Bobby Williams, all the way down. And it's been fun to see that their leadership creates an environment where we can go league jumping and revenue jumping and going against much more difficult competition and still be successful. And I don't know if we'll continue to do that, this year. That remains to be seen. Our league is phenomenal. It's going to be really tough. But we're given the opportunity by our administration, and I really appreciate that. And you can see it, with football success that they're having, and they're doing great. And I know that they will continue it. And it's funny how people ask, like, "Well, are you excited for football winning?" I'm like, heck yeah! I want everybody here to win.
What does that do for you guys?
We all win, and Coach Keeler does a phenomenal job, and I want him to win the national championship. I want him to get into the playoff, and I want him to beat absolutely everybody, and that is so good for our department. And it also helps from a national level. I'm recruiting in Baltimore, and somebody says, "Oh, I watched your football team play the other day," or I was they're my team on EA Sports on college football, and all those things is good publicity and good marketing. And so I think it's phenomenal, the position we've been put in and the environment that is created by our administration lets our department continue to win. I think you're going to see it across all the sports. And I think, in year 2 of Conference USA, I think we're going to be able to have some success. Hopefully men's basketball is one of them, but I know the other ones are going to do it.
Jay, a little hidden fact about Coach here. You probably didn't recognize when you looked at his resume. He worked with Coach Grant McCaslin back in the day. So that's somebody familiar to all three of us. I think we all got a little love for Grant. I am waiting for that national championship game, Coach Mudge versus McCaslin.
It was wild. So last year, Coach McCaslin hired me out of Texas when I was a GA. I had no experience. I didn't know a thing. I was as green as it gets. And Rodney Terry, who is the current head coach at Texas, helped me get that job. And he also helped me get this job with Sam Houston with Coach Houghton. Coach Terry's been unbelievable for me. But Coach McCaslin, in that first year, I learned an incredible amount from him, how to be a man and a leader and a coach. And he's obviously doing unbelievable things. And then I worked for Coach Hodge, who's now the head coach at North Texas, and then worked here for Coach Houghton. Well, last year, I got to play all 3 of them in my first year as a head coach.
Wow.
Which was really wild and a full circle moment. And that was pretty cool because I learned so much from all of them. I wouldn't be here without those 3 guys. And it's no secret why they're successful and that they're going to keep doing that. And so they've been really good to me. Coach McCaslin put a whooping on us when we played him last year. But he's been awesome to me, along with all the other guys, Coach Houghton, Coach Hodge, mentors that have really helped me get here.
Okay, Coach, for those who don't know, Coach Grant McCaslin, current head coach at Texas Tech, formerly Baylor. You guys work together, obviously at Midwestern. So Midland, excuse me. But gotta ask you about this. It's so funny, man. I love basketball because I love the coaches. When I talk about, we talked about Baylor for a second, where I formerly worked, and it seems like the people who are really thriving in this NIL era are their characters coming out. And so one of the things you talked about earlier, I know this, I'm going back a little bit, but you were talking about the transfer portal. And one of the things that happens, you make a promise to a guy or a woman, and you have to deliver on it. And it seems like the people who are operating well, there's a connection there. Do you see what I'm seeing? And this is from the fan perspective, not on the staff currently. And I think I wonder how much of that is also part of your success, because it seems like you have a great relationship with the guys. You really care for them and want what's best, because maybe when I'm a little older than both of you guys. Actually, Keith and I are the same age. But
why are we getting into this?
Well, it was a different day.
The whole world knows now.
Coach is calling people. Back in the day, if you weren't a starter or a contributor on the team, like, you were unheard of. Like, you were like some coaches didn't know your name. Is that what I like, Coach? So I think it's great what you're doing. And that's part of the change that's really happening. I want to also, as we talk about the changing landscape and we talk about the conference you're in, talk a little bit. I know not necessarily you guys. I just want to, while we have you, talk to you about the shifting conferences, not necessarily about your program, but like in basketball, it's so crazy right now. Every day, this Pac-12 is considering somebody. They're not considering someone. How do you handle that? Do you track every move? Are you a guy who's focused on your purpose? How do you take all of this in as like the CEO of the program?
I've got a couple buddies, I'm in some group chats that like to send out all the updates. And so they keep me up to date with what is actually happening, all the rumors and stuff like that. But I also know that that stuff's way above my pay grade. And I cannot control one piece of where Sam Houston is going to be. And but it is interesting because I love college sports.
Right.
Born and raised, University of Texas fan, watch college sports and still do, and absolutely love it. And so it is wild. I mean, I still can't wrap my head around Texas being in the SEC. Yeah. It's such a weird. I talking with somebody last night. I was like, man, Texas in the Big 12. I mean, SEC. It's just it's wild. UCLA and Big 10. There's just all these wild things, but. It's all stuff that we can't control. And one of the parts of discipline is controlling what you can control. And if we use our mental energy and emotion on those things, then we're not using it somewhere else. And don't get me wrong, it is exciting and it's cool. And so I love keeping up with what's going on because I do think there's some new exciting things being formed.
What are some of the things that you're liking? Is it some of these tournaments we're seeing for basketball, or what are things that really get you excited?
Well, I mean, one of my favorite experiences at Texas was going to the Maui Invitational. I mean, that was one of the coolest things with a loaded field. Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. And so I love those tournaments where the coaches and players are not scared of the competition. Scheduling is a wild place right now, and that's a whole nother conversation for a different podcast. But there are, the schools that like competition and want to play somebody good to get better and to test themselves. I really like those. And a lot of these things like you said, the tournaments, the classics, the exhibitions for charity are pitting some of those schools against each other. And I think that's really cool. And I think that is what college sports is about. College sports is not about blowouts, trying to schedule for blowouts or just trying to pad a record. And so I really like those. And I think that as people get moved around, it opens up some opportunities for some of those where teams that had historic rivalry get a different opportunity or a different way that they can compete against each other. And so I think, the movement and the conferences and things, it'll all work itself out. We are shuffling the same pieces around just into a different league and buyout money. We're all just passing it back and forth. And conferences will still be exciting. Conference tournaments will still matter. NCAA tournament will still be important. And so I think those preseason early games against really good teams are the things that I really like. And, when I'm done watching film and I'm getting ready for bed, I love turning on those games. Those are the ones I want to watch is those really good matchups.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's a great tournament, Maui, by the way. I would say
my favorite. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was fortunate to go with Coach Drew and Baylor men's basketball back in 2013. And it's just an incredible experience.
It's awesome, and Chaminade's going to beat some teams every couple of years.
Oh yeah, they're coming. They're jacking. They always got to have a shooter, right?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to go play ball in Hawaii?
Oh, my goodness.
If I had that opportunity, I'd have been playing for Chaminade tomorrow.
Yeah, this is totally off topic, but one of my most, speaking of social media, I remember one time we were there, and anybody's been to Maui. Maui is a great country, it's beautiful. It's probably a little bit more natural than some of the other islands, and the student athletes absolutely love it. And one of the things that's so interesting is, of course, that tournament is on ESPN. And I remember walking past the production truck. And I get back to our hotel, Coach, you'll appreciate this. And Jay Billis was calling the game. And Jay Billis had taken a picture of this one cord. And it was like, think about like the orange cord at your home for your holiday lights. And it said, this is the one cord that's keeping the broadcast on TV. Right?
Can't mess with that one. Cannot mess with that.
It had like some, like the electrical gray tape. You know what I'm talking about, Coach?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a pretty important chord right there.
That tweet went viral, Coach.
I like it. Yeah.
So, well, Coach, one thing as we kind of wrap up here, I just want to talk to you about, you talked a little bit about the NIL and a lot about it. You talked about these shifting things. What is your North Star? And the reason why I ask about that is as we go through changes, and you were talking about this a little bit earlier in the show, one of the things is that when you have your values and your core values that you have for your program, for your life as an individual, those are things that keep you going, right, during turbulent times, right? Like I always say, a captain, I love boating, I love lakes. Anybody knows me knows this. And I always say a captain is judged by his ability to handle the rough waters, right? Not the middle of the week Wednesdays when there's not a lot of traffic. How do you manage that as you're, recruiting and then re-recruiting, right? Student athletes, you're, paying attention to what's going on. You're developing players, right? Like now today's college coach is almost like a pro team, right? In terms of developing talent. How do you manage all that? Because one of the things I hear, I have a lot of coaching friends, and it seems like the demands on a coach have never been greater. Is that accurate? And how do you handle that?
There are a lot. And, I think if we strive for something, it's probably two things, honesty and opportunity. Like, let's find ways to be honest, not to throw inflated numbers for no reason, just to get a kid to stay or get a kid out of the portal and then say, oh, sorry, we've already got you here, so you have to do something now. I don't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. And then, but we also need in our environment of Sam Houston basketball to be creating opportunities for guys and then letting them capitalize off those things. And our collective and all the things around NIL at Sam Houston basketball are growing like crazy. It's been awesome. The support and the outreach and the people that are reaching out to our guys independently because of their success is super positive. But if we go in with trying to be as honest as we can, now we have no crystal ball of how things are going to go. Right. But try to set expectations and be able to follow through on them is probably the most important thing we can do. And we've lost kids because of that in recruiting, because I'm not going to throw a number that doesn't exist. I'm not going to throw even a hopeful number like, gosh, I really hope we can get you to X.
Which we've been seeing, right? Just recently, we don't want to call out any schools, 4-letter school that, right, there were commitments made and check didn't clear.
And you never know what all went into all the sides of those types of interactions. And so that's why both sides being honest with each other from the beginning to the best of their ability is, I think, really important so those types of things don't happen. And again, I'm not perfect and I don't interact in the best way every single time, but I want to recruit guys who want to be here first. And then we can talk about the great opportunities that you can have here as we're able to capitalize. And so, you talk about a North Star, that's what, I kind of want to guide our interactions by. And hopefully we're able to do that in this time where there is a lot of misinformation. Right. There are a lot of crazy numbers being thrown out. And when you're talking money with people, it takes a different kind of emotion that gets attached to it. And so trying to do that in the correct way is can be hard to do. And so just trying to be cognizant of that as we're talking with guys, and hopefully creates outcomes that everybody's on the same page. That, you did what you said you were going to do. I did what I said I was going to do. And we had a good interaction that has nothing to do with playing time, and that's there. And it does add an extra element of communication. You have to have the general manager hat is one that's added to coaches now. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as we're being good stewards of that hat.
Yep, absolutely. Good thoughts. Man, this has been gold all day.
Good. I'm glad I could help a little bit.
Yeah, Coach. Well, you were talking part of the time. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm like, man, he is dime after dime after dime. Hopefully, I had questions in my head, and you were just answering. So I was like, you know what? I really am so excited that we're able to talk to you because, I think it's hard for many people. They don't get the opportunity to sit down with the D1 coach and get the kind of insights that you're sharing in a long format setting like we've got. So shout out to you for coming on. We live in a world sometimes where people don't always like to do interviews. And so the fact that you come and give us your valuable time to share with our users is just tremendous. And I think it also speaks to, your mindset as a content creator yourself, right? And so hat tip to you for that. And thank you for coming.
I appreciate having us on. I think that I learn by the day, and I'm in the middle of it. So I can only imagine what people not in the midst of this, how they get their information. And so if some of this, I know obviously y'all's podcast, it gives them a lot of that. And so hopefully if I can help somebody be more informed or understand kind of how it works a little bit better, then hopefully we've done a little bit of good.
Well, Coach, I have to tell you, we have a lot of followers on Snapchat and TikTok, and you'll be surprised, man. We have a lot of 13. I just shout out to all of our users. I have to say this while you're on here, but we have a lot of people, 13, 14, 15-year-old young men and women all over this country. I noticed we can look at our data. And so that's why I was really excited, because there's young people out there who are listening to you. They're going to hear this. We'll chop some of these sound bites up that you have, and you'd be Coach, they're just tuned in. And so I think, again, I just want to thank you because this is a tremendous conversation I think that we had on personal branding and just also integrity, right? And how to work and mindset. Like, that's the biggest thing I walk away from this conversation with you. I mean, like, I really wanted to lace them up, like Keith said. I can give Coach one more run. I can't go on game, but I can give you 3 minutes, Coach.
That's what it's made of.
Next time I'm there, Coach, I'm gonna lace them up. We just got to get a little clip of you coaching me up. Yeah,
we'll mic you up. See how those 3 minutes go.
Yeah, it's not gonna go well, but I had that athletic trainer nearby.
Coach, you're probably familiar with the guy named Kai Cenat. He's the #1 streamer in the world. Like, he literally makes as much as LeBron James's contract, not his endorsements. And he had this video last week, and I'm thinking about this with Keith. And what you could do is Kai played with people who were probably they literally came up to his chest, right? So Kai Cenat's huge, right? Like, the NBA has him as guests at games and all over the league. He's on commercials, and he's shooting against these kids that had to have been in this 5th or 6th grade. And so I think that would be great content for Keith and for your program. And that's how I think we should do that content together, Coach.
Yeah, well, we'll make that happen next time.
Yeah, great highlight reel. That'd be great. Me, Coach, I would need those 6th and 7th graders to play against so I could look good again.
No doubt. I'm trying to be successful here. I'm trying to do that.
Well, Coach, thanks so much. As we wrap up here, thank you so much. This has been a Hicks Sports and Entertainment production.
We want to thank our sponsor, Influxer, for sponsoring the Brand&Athlete podcast. So thankful for everything that Influxer does in the NIL landscape, but most importantly for believing in this podcast and the education, the information that we're able to kick out.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Be the story.